Today's video is not about this amplifier. It's going to be on the bench. It's going to be part of this video, but that's not what it's about. We already know that Sound Digital is known for putting out the power that's on the side of the box. So that's not really in question. This is a 1600.1. There's no doubt it does 1600 watts. We already know that. So this video is about something completely different. And I want to open up your eyes and show you a little something that you might not really even know. And it has something to do with these right here. The good old-fashioned line output converter. So not everybody that wants to put a little bit of sound in their car is ready to do a humongous system and modify the vehicle and do all this crazy stuff. Sometimes you just want a little bit of beat. So you turn to the good old-fashioned line output converter. Tap right on into the rear deck lid 6.5s or 6x9s, whatever's back there. Get you a little signal, run them over to your bass amp, hook up a subwoofer, be done with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. But there's one thing that you might not know about when you're doing this that is causing your system to sound like crap and just not be right. So I'm going to show you visually what's happening. To be completely honest with you, a lot of these factory systems have really nice mids and highs in the front. Some of them don't, but some of them do. My Escalade had a Bose system in it. The mids and highs actually sounded really nice. I could have easily put two 12s in the back and hooked up an amp and been good to go and happy. But you know we don't do it like that over here. But I could have been happy. But choosing the right line output converter is the key to your success and your happiness. This video that you're about to watch might seem a little boring to most people, but if you're in the car audio industry, if you're an installer, this is something you might want to pay close attention to. There's a lot of false information out there. There's YouTube videos with people trying to teach you how to set your gains, where they say, buy a cheap oscope and go back there with a 50 hertz or a 40 hertz track and turn it up until you see clipping. That's all you have to do. You don't need no special tools. And they're totally teaching people the wrong way to do it. I'm not here to ask you to use my tools. I'm just trying to show you something that you may not know about. A lot of people claim they tune by ear, and this is stuff that you just can't hear and you might not even know is there. So watch this video, pay attention, enlighten yourself. So hear me out. Now I don't have a factory head unit on my test bench, but I do have the old Sony. It's got RCAs out, low level, and it's got high level outputs, which are speaker level. The wires coming off the back, not the RCAs. So we're going to use those, and for this test, these will be the 6x9s or the 6.5s in your rear deck lid that we're going to tap into. They're actually on the high level outputs of this deck. They're here just so I can hear what's coming out of this deck without having to have an amp hooked up. So they're going to serve that function really well. And I only happen to own a couple of high-low converters because I really don't use them very often. So here's one of them I bought a while ago, and here's another one that I bought a while ago. Both of them have gains on them. You can see right there in the middle. There's gains on every channel. And that's where you're going to run into your main problems, those gains. Let's tap into the old binine and see what's actually happening. How dirty are these things? Most people have no idea. But we're about to find out. We're going to take this wire right here. We're going to tap in just like any average person would do. We're going to see what's coming out of this wire. We're going to see what's coming out of these once it's fed straight through. Alright, just to show you what I'm doing here, we got a 40 hertz test signal coming out, 0 dB. We got an O-scope sitting here, you can hear it a little bit, turn it up. So I'm turning this up right now. Like on the scope it's going to be about 47, and these are the high level outputs. So this one is hooked up to the deck still, high level outs. This one's disconnected, and I have it hooked up to the O-scope, and I've got it hooked up to the DD1. right there. We got distortion at 46 out of 50 on this deck. Change tracks. This 1000 is really loud. I'm going to disconnect it so I'll have to listen to it. Okay, here we go. As you can see on the DD1, we got 1K showing. There we go, same thing. 46, clean. 47, dirty. You can see that clearly. This is what happens when you turn it all the way up. See how dirty that waveform is? So we're going to turn that back down. 46. So on the high level outputs, 46 is clean on this deck, and that's amplified by the deck itself. Now that we know what's going to come into the LOC from the deck, let's see what's coming back out of it again. Okay, so we got juice, we got a red light. So it's on. So these wires right here are my high level ends. This side right here is the RCAs that you would send out to your amplifiers. So let's go ahead and hook at least one of these up. We'll plug this right into the top. So now we're reading this LOC directly. Turn that on. Unpause this. So right now you can look at the scope and you can see we're at 46 and there's nothing, no signal or anything coming out of the DD1. Coming into the DD1, I should say. So we're going to turn these gains up on here a little bit. Because it's not letting anything through. We'll see what happens. Look at that. It's as soon as it's letting signal through, can you see that? I mean, I'm barely cracking these gains right now, just enough to where I can see signal, and it's pure distortion already. Like, look, there you go right there. There's your signal only after the distortion. Let's turn that down to 40 hertz, because this is going to be bass that we're looking for. Alright, you can see on the scope it's nice and clean. We got nothing coming out of this LOC because the gain is all the way down again. Now we're going to turn it back up because we need something to come through this or it's not going to do anything. Look at that distortion. As soon as I mean, I am barely breathing on this thing and it's already distorting. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see this. So here we go. Alright, I'm going to start cracking it just a little bit. Just a little bit, just enough to let some music through. Look at that, it's already distorting. Now this is our input, this is our output. So I'm going to keep turning it. That distortion light is really bright and it's not even showing signal yet. Now we got a little bit of signal as I turn it. It's not showing what type though, it's not showing 40 hertz. So I'm gonna, there we go, now we got 40 hertz. That's about a third of the way up. So this thing right here is not even worth using. Not at all. I wouldn't even hook this up to my car at all. Sure, you'll get some bass, you'll get some music coming through, but it's going to be disgusting and dirty. The whole object of setting your gains correctly is finding out where the head unit distorts and leaving it at its highest clean output level. Anything in between there, same thing. An LOC would basically be your head unit because you're tapping into a speaker in the back. That's your head unit. That's your output. That's your main outputs. So that's pure distortion right there from the get-go. You can't even set your gains properly with that. As soon as you hook this up to an amplifier, guess what? The amplifier is only amplifying what you gave it, which is distortion. So let's move on over to this one right here. This is a well-known brand. I blocked it out a little bit. I don't know if you can still see it or not, but oh well. This thing's like under $20. It looks like a much better made piece of equipment though. It feels heavier, feels nicer, but will it do the same thing? Let's find out. Of course, this one right here is 4 channels. I'm not going to hook up all 4 channels to it. We'll just use one. That'll be all you need to know as soon as I start turning the gains up on it. That is, if it's dirty. It might be clean, I don't know. Okay, my test bench is getting messier and messier by the minute, but I'm trying to read and get signal at the same time with 2 different devices. So we got our high level coming in, low level coming out. Same thing, RCA going over there to the DD1 so we can see what's coming out of it, and the O-scope is still on the inputs. Since we know this is clean coming in, we should be able to turn that factory gain all the way up, which it is, and we got nothing. It's just like the other one, it's not letting anything out, so we're going to have to turn this gain up just to let anything out of here, let alone distortion or anything like that, just to let any signal out. So we're going to come up here, I'm going to try to find those little crosshairs somewhere in there. There we go. Okay, so we're ready. Okay, so right here we're going to start cracking this gain, turning it nice and slow. Oh, we got distortion before it even shows the signal. I'm going to keep turning it. Oh, we got signal coming in. I'm about 1/3 of the way up. Just signal. Doesn't even know which signal. It just knows there's something coming in. That means that the voltage is still really low. Oh, there we go. Now we got 40 hertz. So there you go. Pure distortion before there's even a signal detected. I'm going to turn that down all the way. Boom. Nothing. So we're going to turn that back up again. Look at that. Just a little bit, just a small crack on that gain, and we're already into pure distortion. Let's do the same thing with 1K. Okay, so we're at 1K. We're going to adjust this a little bit here. So you can see we're still clean. That's our incoming. And we're going to start cracking this again. My hand in the way. So there you go, same exact thing. Distortion and then 1K. Distortion. Turn it up a little more, 1K. So this thing's god awful before you even get to turn it up. And it's barely cracked. So once again, you don't want this in your car. I'm just telling you that right now, unless you don't mind amplifying distortion. Because this amplifier only amplifies what you're telling it to amplify, and that's what you'll be amplifying. Obviously you turn this gain all the way down and it goes away, but now you don't have any signal coming out at all, or very, very little. All right, let's see how much voltage is actually coming out of this, even though it's dirty and distorted. Let's see. Okay, again with the DD1 Plus, we're distorting before we have any voltage at all. So I'm just going to keep cranking this up. Okay, so that's turned up all the way. That gain is turned up all the way, and we got 2.2 volts, and it's distorting before you even get any signal. And you can see we're still clean over here. So when you've only got 2 volts, what that means is when you send that over to your amplifier, you're going to have to turn your gain up on your amplifier even higher to make up for that 2 volts. The more voltage you have coming in, the less gain you have to use. Never mind that it's dirty all the way through. That's just terrible. Alright, let's check the voltage coming out of that first LOC, because that one actually has power coming in as well. So it might be a little bit more than 2 volts. You can see we got a big bright red light. This thing has positive, negative, and remote on it. It's got some sort of electronics going on. So we're going to turn this gain up. You can see we're still clean on the inputs. I'm going to start turning this up just a little bit. Oh, look at that. Distortion and no voltage. It's barely, I mean, I'm barely breathing on this thing. So let's go ahead and keep turning it up and see what kind of voltage we actually get, even though it's dirty and distorted. 2.6 turned all the way up. Again, you do not want to hook this up to your amplifier like that. So So I'm just going to put this at right around 2 volts. That's not asking much. 2 volts. We're going to unhook it. We're going to put it into this amplifier. The gain on this amplifier is turned all the way down, which means no matter what we do with the gain, I can turn this up. No matter what, it's dirty. And just so you know there's no trickery, we're still clean coming in. I can make that dirty again. There you go. We were clean coming in. It should be clean coming out. You can't just undo distortion through the amplifier like that. If it's getting distortion, it's going to give distortion. Now, before I end this video, I know that there's several brands out there that probably are good. I only had these 2 laying around. But then we got the SMD HLC2. I've never really talked about this. It's been out for a while, maybe 6 months. It was in prototype stage for a couple years, but it's finally here. And I haven't even talked about it yet, so today is the day. So let's hook this thing up and see what's going in and what's coming out. This is just a little guy too. Positive, negative remote, inputs, outputs, gains. Okay, we got high level coming in again, and these are going to be our low level outs. We got a little blue light right here. It's on. I don't know if you can see that in the video or not, but there you go. Channel A, channel B, gains are all the way down. So gains are all the way down. Everything's hooked up. And as soon as I turn it on, you can see we got a clean signal coming in. We got 40 hertz coming out right away, right off the bat. No distortion yet. So let's turn this up. Okay, so as we crank this up a little bit, got a little blink right there, and right there we got a little bit of distortion. Back that down. Boom. Now this is the ideal point where you would hook this up to an amplifier. You got no distortion, the gain is turned up to where it's supposed to be, it matches the head unit perfectly, and there you have it. No distortion at all. Of course, like any gain, as you turn it up, you might get some distortion, but that just means that you're at the highest level that I could put out before. Look at that. So we have a clear winner here for sure. So let's see what kind of voltage is coming out of here. Almost 4 volts clean. So we're turning this gain up. So we got distortion after 10 volts. That's a lot of voltage. This thing has some heat. Look at that. 10 volts. High levels in, low levels out, and up to 10 volts. Distortion free. It's like almost perfect. I mean, you can't ask for anything else. Most amplifiers don't like anything higher than 5 anyways. So that's plenty of juice to feed whatever amps you have. So this thing's still at 10 volts. We're gonna turn that down to about 5 volts, which most amps will like. Five volts out. We're gonna connect that to the amplifier. Make sure the gain's all the way down, which it is. Distortion right there. Okay, so what we would do here is we would turn this up. We have no distortion. We would turn this all the way up. Hit read. Change tracks. And we're going to set our overlap to about 10 dB. Perfect. So there you have it. You hook up the SMD HLC2 to your system, you can have a clean signal in, clean signal out, and you're good to go. You hook up one of those other ones, and you're on your own. Crap in, crap out. That's all I really got to say about it. There's definitely an important lesson to be had here. If you don't see what that lesson is, you probably shouldn't be hooking up car audio. No offense. So what does that mean in the real world? That means when you hook up your subwoofer amp to that little 6x9 on the back and you set your gains properly, you should be able to turn it up to 46 or whatever your number was. You should be able to play all day long without hurting anything because the gains are set properly. Yeah. This is what you want to hear coming out of your trunk. You don't want to hear what those things are feeding that amplifier. Watching this video and I'm editing, I'm realizing that the woofer really isn't flexing and jumping super hard out of its basket. It's a 1500 watt SMD Mini on a 1600 watt Sound Digital Evo X. It's a dual 1 subwoofer on a 1 ohm amplifier. So I had a choice between a 0.5 ohm and 2 ohms. 2 ohms is going to yield less power to the subwoofer, but those were my two choices. This woofer was sitting here ready to go. But you get my point. You should be able to turn your volume all the way up to your highest clean point on the head unit and not have any kind of distortion at all and play all day. That's the point. So I realized that I only tried 2 brands plus the new SMD, but this is going to give you a good idea of what some of those cheap LOCs are going to give you. You reach up and you grab one off the shelf and you throw it in your car and you think you're good to go. More than likely you're not going to be. So whether it's SMD or Audio Control or another reputable brand, just get a good brand and scope it. Use a DD1 or scope it and set your gains properly. One more thing you might want to consider when you're tapping into that rear deck speaker or wherever you're getting that signal from, some of these factory systems have equalization in them and they have something that attenuates the bass when you turn it up. So if that might be something you have to process out another way. So you're going to always want to try to find the best full range speaker in the car that you can before you use any LOC. That's all. That's it. Have a good day. Thanks for watching, and I'm out.